Hi, Joseph.
Hey, Dr. Wall. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. I got a stack of your cards, the deck of the cards, and it's just so cute. Parents are human, and it has, what I suppose maybe your parents or even grandparents. And I'm so excited to see it in Korean so I can read it in my elementary school level. Um, but tell me a little bit about how this concept came about.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. So the truth is, for about 12 years, I really had no idea how to talk to my parents. This was the deep, dark secret that I kept within me, that I pretty much carried everywhere. And it wasn't until around 2018 when I hit rock bottom, if you will. I had the first company that I started not work out. I had to shut it down. I had a long-term relationship not work out. And what I realized looking around was there really wasn't anything more important than this feeling of so much shame and so much guilt for having mistreated my parents for over a decade. It was this realization that if I didn't confront all of that pain, that lack of a relationship, that inability to talk to them, and feeling like I had to just run away as far as possible every time I was back at home, and couldn't wait to go to a coffee shop to do work because I didn't even know how to be myself around them. I realized that if I didn't confront all of that I would really regret that for the rest of my life. So, I started this journey that was the most challenging and humbling experience I've ever gone through. And along the way, I met a friend, and this was actually her idea. We both had this language barrier of growing up in the US, having elementary school level Chinese. And we realized that, wow, we got to know all our friends by having really deep conversations and getting to know who they are. And we never got that opportunity with our parents. So long story short, we, in about 6 months, put together these questions after interviewing, surveying hundreds of people and looking through literally thousands of questions, and then going through a dozen translations to get them as close as possible to the meaning we were looking for.
Well, talk to me about this process, because there are many immigrant parents that also feel the same thing with their children who were born here or came here at a very young age. And so what was it like to just create or have this unspoken barrier between you guys?
Yeah, I was so unaware that I had this rift with my parents. I just thought that, and the story that I made up when I was in middle school was that I just needed to be successful and my life would be okay. And that all came from just being an only child, not really having social skills when I was younger, and getting bullied in middle school and high school. So yeah, the road to success, if you will, was in my mind, to just be super successful and be really good at something. I went to this personal development boot camp, and then they gave us a challenge of go hug your roommates, whoever you live with.
And hopefully they took showers.
For absolutely no reason, go hug whoever you live with today. And then tomorrow come back and everyone has to have done it. And I lived with my parents, so I was like, oh shoot, I never hug my parents unless we're going on a trip and I'm about to leave for 6 months. But it was kind of the Asian family dynamic. And so I very tentatively asked them, hey, can I hug you? And of course they were like, of course. And that started about 1.5 years of waking up. And the first thing I would do would give them both a big bear hug.
What are some of maybe an example of a specific trigger that would be very common for you?
Yeah, great question. So my mom used to show me her love, and I didn't know this was her love language, by giving me way too much food. So much food on one plate. and it was a big plate, not even a small one, that I could not possibly finish it. And it would be like for 3 people. So I would get so frustrated and tell my mom pretty much every time we would eat that she put too much food on my plate. And I was like, Mom, how many times do I have to tell you, like, I can't eat all this. And it's like, we're going to have to store it up. And why don't you just let me serve myself and all of that. And she really didn't, like, she always had the same responses of like, well, just eat what you want and then leave the rest to me and I'll clean it up. And I just got so frustrated because I didn't understand that her true love language and the thing that she valued more than anything in her life was the ability to make food and to nourish other people. And that's all because she didn't have any of that when she was growing up. And she went through the Great Chinese Famine, the Cultural Revolution. And this was a time when people literally peeled all the bark off of all the trees to eat, like all the leaves were gone. All the incense inside of temples were emptied because they were mixing that with water to eat something. And that was the extent of hunger. And she survived because neighbors would roll a watermelon across the street to her and she would be able to eat it and share it with her whole family. And that was the way that she showed her love, and that continued. And even now, she loves cooking and baking for all her neighbors in our apartment complex. She would go and just, randomly bake muffins and go down and deliver them. So it wasn't until I heard that story over the course of about 3 hours that I finally realized and then made a promise to my mom. I wrote this huge love letter to her over a Mother's Day 2 years ago. And I told her, Mom, I'll never yell at you ever again for giving me too much food. I get it now.
How did she respond?
She was in tears. I was in tears. We were all in tears. And she was just, you know what? She responded in an interesting way. She pretty much just went into her bedroom, got put on amazing clothing that she hasn't worn for a long time, put on all this makeup and looked super beautiful. And she was like, I want to take a picture with my son. Oh so that day, it was Mother's Day. And then we just took a picture together, and that was kind of her, and she was like squeezing me super tight. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joseph. You're such a pleasure. And I'm just so glad that you reached out to share your game. And I was just like, after I got the game, I started playing. I wanted to do that before inviting you on, because I'm like, what if this game sucks?
It's possible. It's very possible.
I'm kidding. I knew it wasn't going to suck. But I think that after playing, I have that experiential piece to ask you more deep questions. And I love the game. And, the thing about it is you can play it with kids of all ages that can actually, comprehend some stuff. I mean, the youngest in our family is 7. And obviously the different levels. I mean, she reads very well because, like every good Asian, she goes to Kumon. So she can understand that. But definitely if they have those able to kind of articulate their experiences, like, fantastic,
Yeah. Start the conversations early. I wish I did.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a big thing is emotional development, socio-emotional development for kids now, because I truly believe that facilitating kindness and empathy can really change our world for future generations, for sure.
I couldn't agree more.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you, Dr. Wong. Thanks again. Thank
you. Thank you so much for listening to the Color Success Podcast. Listen, like, subscribe on all major streaming platforms, YouTube, IG, and if you want exclusive content, you can join our Patreon. All links can be found at colorofsuccesspodcast.com.